Hiya, and welcome back to Echo, the game that, quite honestly, gives anyone and everyone emotional damage. Oh wait, no, that's Dastro. Wait, that's any Echo Project game. Anyways, let's just jump right in. I wonder if her sprain can be bad enough that it needs to be amputated. I try not to think about it and move to the bed, sitting down gingerly. Carl makes his way over to the bedside table next to me. I'm talking about the way you were acting, how you were laughing and stuff. Carl shrugs his shoulders, made vague by the way he seems to be wrestling the table out of its corner, looking behind it. The whole thing's ridiculous, isn't it? Gotta lighten the mood with humor sometimes. While she's trying to stab you? Another shock at remembering the attempted murder, though it's duller. Carl yanks the drawer from the table violently. What are you doing? Looking for bullshit notes. That's why we're here, isn't it? I reach out and grab Carl's arm, at which he freezes and finally looks at me. I swallow, trying to think of how to phrase this. Carl, are you anymore? Of course I'm me. The ram pulls his arm away from my grasp. I shake my head. We know Jenna isn't. I guess in a weird fucked up way she was gonna snap eventually, but... Carl keeps rummaging around and I wonder if he's listening at all. And I could sort of tell you weren't either, but now I'm just having trouble seeing you at all anymore. Carl finally sets the drawer down, looking around the room. He wipes his hands off his shorts, then slowly moves closer before sitting down next to me on the bed. I'm still me. We're all just under a lot of pressure right now, you know, dude? I guess? It's strange. It's like he's someone who's trying to pretend to be Carl. That idea puts me on edge. I look away, thinking back on the attack. That newspaper clipping. It makes sense why that would set John off, right? Carl snorts. I'm not surprised. I told you earlier they want us to see the truth before we can leave. But wasn't that the truth? Carl doesn't say anything. I shake my head. Unless it's not. I don't know. Carl remains silent. Guess it was stupid to think James would help me. At this point, I'm equally suspicious of the two of them. I lay back on the bed, rubbing my eyes. I'd thought that letting James help us would lead us to the way out of here, but now, it feels as if I've just lost a friend. Carl's hand suddenly comes to rest on my shoulder. You just upset that we didn't get to go all the way earlier? Huh? I furrow my brow. That's the furthest thing from my mind right now. But the ram turns to me on the bed, a coy smile on his face. What are you talking about? Carl rolls over on the bed to the other side and reaches out to rub my arm again. What are you doing? I watch him rubbing through the fur on my arm, picking up where we left off. Carl runs his hand up under my shirt before pushing the fabric up to expose my torso. I can't help but react to the touch. Despite what just happened not 20 minutes ago, despite the way Carl's acting, despite that it's not Carl. Or is it? Something seems a bit more familiar about him now. My urges are made all the worse as the ram runs his hand down my chest towards the waistband of my pants. I don't know if this is a good idea right now. I reached up to push my shirt back down. You sure? Not even a hand job? Wow. Carl pauses with his hand on my stomach, gently moving his fingers around in the fur. The bulge in my pants is obvious. We should be thinking of a way to escape. Still, I stare at the hand on my body. Well, we're not going anywhere in the meantime. Besides, didn't we come here to rest? Might as well get one out while you can. I take back what I said about familiarity. Carl's unusually confident, weirdly seductive, and it has my heart beating fast. Might help you get to sleep. Hang on, let me turn this down. Yo, that's loud. Something feels strange in the room. A low, surreal drone that makes it feel as if I'm in a dream. My movements feel numb, like they're not my own. My urges are not my own. I feel like this is going to get horny, so I'm just going to, do that. It feels old and overpowering, this feeling, and Carl seems to be radiating it. At this point, I don't really know what's normal or okay, or basically what reality is anymore. But I do know that my body wants this. Maybe real quick. Carl presses his lips to the side of my face, then lower toward my neck. At the same time, his hand goes back to my shirt that I've lowered to the top of my stomach and pushes it all the way up over my face. With just a moment of hesitation, I raise my arms up so we can completely get rid of the shirt. Carl pauses, looking over my torso again. You're in shape. I don't say anything. The way he's scanning his eyes over my body makes my heart skip a beat. I look toward the door, wondering if maybe I should check if there's a lock. Not only because Raven coming in and seeing what we're up to at a time like this would be bad, but also because Jenna seeing this in the state of mind she's in would be a disaster. How fucking immature am I that I'm doing this right now? Carl, I don't know if this is a good idea right now. What if Raven, or what? You know Raven snuck off in the cabin to beat one out. You deserve this. I blush. Actually, I'm going to turn it back on because I don't think there's a whole lot going on. I'm just helping you out. I sigh and don't say anything as Carl starts kissing my neck, causing my cock to twitch a bit. That's awful. Carl chuckles into my fur, making me shiver. Pull your pants down and I'll help you out. Fuck it. I reach down and shove my pants and boxers down to my thighs, exposing my length to the cool air. Yeah, I'm definitely hiding it now. A musky smell reaches my nose, and I blush at the thought of Carl smelling it. I didn't exactly have much time to bathe over the past day or two. The ram doesn't seem to mind as his hand immediately goes to my cock, grabbing it up into his huge hand. It envelops almost the entire thing, and I gasp out in surprise, almost groaning at how sensitive I am. You are pent up, huh? He gives me a... I don't want to read this, but I think you might want to. Should I like turn it on and just like slowly go through the text so y'all can read it? Because I don't really want to read it out loud. It's a little spicy. I'm gonna do that. No, I have skip enabled. What was that? You bit my ear. I pull my hand away to see that it's not bleeding, somehow. Carl shrugs. Oh yeah, some people like that. Guess you don't? No. I frown at how nonchalant the ram is. I mean, it was really hard. Carl wipes his hand off on the pillowcase, then tosses it over to me. Sorry, I won't do it next time. Next time. I take the pillowcase and rub my dick with it, along with the little bit that got on the covers. That's awful. Alright, I'm tired. I'm gonna lay down too. I'm a little put off. Instead of the primal urges I'd felt before, I feel almost empty. Almost guilty at the thought of what we'd just done. I'm reminded that Jenna and Raven are just a few floors below us. I should honestly go down and see how they're doing, but I can't really do that with Carl here. I look over my shoulder and see Carl laying on his back, eyes closed. I don't know. I guess Carl's possessed by James or something, that he's not really Carl anymore. He might already be asleep before I've even pulled my pants up. It's a bit odd that he's not trying to spoon me again like last time. I guess it's fine since I'm not really in the mood to be spooned. I give my dick a few wipes before I drop the pillowcase onto the floor next to the mess that's already there. I pull up my pants, wanting to take a shower, but too exhausted to check the bathroom for running water. I lie on my side, idly wondering if maybe I should go downstairs since Carl seems to be asleep, but... Okay, yeah, no, that's definitely Pennywise level bullshit. That's bullshit right there. A familiar cackle far in the distance pulls me out of my sleep. I open my eyes to a dark room, seeing the faint outline of the doorway. Is it nighttime? Does time move in this place? I sit up in the bed, looking around. It's dark, but I can see the outlines of the dresser and the bedside table, along with the empty bed I'm in. Where's Carl? I swing my legs off the bed and feel the lush, fuzzy carpet. Hang on, I'm gonna turn it up so y'all can hear the music. My heart leaps in my chest. Am I back? I don't want to get my hopes up because of what happened last time, but this place looks exactly like Carl's parents' room. I reach out to the lamp next to me to feel around for a switch, but it illuminates the moment I touch it. And that's when I see the outline of a small person in the hall. I jump, eyes staring out into the dark hallway. A small fox stares back. I have enough time to see the overalls, a white shirt, before suddenly he turns and vanishes into the dark. I hear the patter of his footsteps down the hall and down the stairs before it fades off into silence. I'm backed up against the headboard, heart hammering in my chest, staring at the dark rectangle. Quickly glancing around the room again, I don't see Carl anywhere. Slowly, I push myself out of the bed and pad around the room, keeping an eye on the door in case the fox came back. I glance out the glass doors as I pass them to the dark balcony. I can't see anything, though I do see specks of light down in the town. From what I can see, it looks normal as well. Swallowing loudly, I move toward the hallway. Something seems to be pushing me forward toward the darkness. I look into the hallway, down toward the stairs, but it's completely black. Moving my hand up and down along the wall for a light switch, I hit one and am almost blinded by the bright light that shines down on me. I shield my eyes as I force myself to watch the stairs, but again, I see nothing. Swallowing again, I force myself forward, toward the stairs, and finally down the stairs. I try not to blink, eyes wide, watching for the little fox. I don't have my hopes up that this is real anymore. After seeing the fox boy, I know I'm still not in reality. At least, not all the way. Well, maybe I am back, but those things from the other side have crossed over a bit, and that's what I saw. I'm in the kitchen when I suddenly see a set of horns in the darkness, moving toward the stairs before they disappear. Carl? I hurry toward the stairs, feeling again along the walls for a light switch. I hear clopping at the bottom, along with voice. Small childlike voices. Stumbling down the stairs, I call out again. Carl? Jenna? Raven? I start to wonder if I've left the other three somehow. Am I alone here? Did we get separated? Soon I'm running through the basement hall toward the sound of voices. I'm at the door to the crawl space, and without hesitation, I unlatch the door and throw it open to find that same small fox. I see now that he's just a boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old in old-fashioned clothes. He stares at me, stoic and unmoving. I stare back in silence, then I see something. Oh shit. 2 towering horns materialize above the boy, and I see Carl's face. And then arms close around the fox's throat, and the boy opens his mouth to scream. I jolt awake on Carl's parents' bed. I'm back. It's bright again, and I look around to see the hardwood floor, the bunched-up pillowcase on the bedside table. But Carl's not there, and they're still screaming. Help! Stop! The sound is distant, coming from downstairs. My body is filled with adrenaline, both from the dream and the screaming that I suddenly realize is very real. I jump off the bed and immediately go down to my knees as my ankle screams in agony. I have no choice though, and I force myself to my feet, half hopping, half limping my way to and through the building. It's easier now that I've got walls and rails I can half support myself on. My heart thuds in my chest. I'm still bleary and confused from being asleep just 30 seconds ago. What I do know is that I have to help Raven and probably Jenna too. I don't have time to dwell on the realization that I've made a stupid mistake going to sleep, not keeping an eye on Carl. No, no, no! Stumbling through the kitchen, I hear the screams coming from down the flight of stairs to the basement, before being cut off suddenly. I feel my heart sink as I limp and jump to the stairs, practically falling down the stairs to the basement below. I squint down the hall, unable to see clearly in the darkness. What I do get is a vague sense of movement in the dark, to the left. I move blindly in that direction, not sure what I'm going to find, or what I'm going to do. Carl? I feel along the wall, then I feel nothing as I find the doorway. Reaching out for a light switch, I flip it on, and see that I'm in the weight room. And there's blood on the floor. I stare around in horror at 3 big splotches, and as I stare at them, I think I even see them spreading. I go down to my knees, not even feeling my ankle at this point. I stare hard at the floor, looking around, but not seeing anyone. Jenna? Raven? I call out their names in a hushed whisper. Footsteps. I'm hit harder than I've ever been in my life. The cold concrete of the ground meets my face as my limbs go out from underneath me. The feeling of rough, dirty ground against my face makes me crinkle my nose. I try to reach up and brush at it, but my hands don't come up. My shoulders ache horribly, and so do my knees. Not to mention my ankle, though that almost feels numb at this point. I slowly crack open my eyes, seeing nothing but dirt. Something has my limbs tied, and I'm twisted painfully into some sort of hog tie, my forearms stuck to my ankles. A bright light shines on me, almost blinding with how powerful it is. I can hear it droning on, a fluorescent buzz that tickles the nape of my neck. I hear some faint clopping sounds, along with the shifting of heavy boxes. I try to keep quiet as I look around, unsure of where I am or who it is that's near me. While it's hard to see through the bright white light, I can make out stacks of boxes around me. Plastic bins, I think, like what Carl has in his crawl space. Is that where I am? I'm not sure because behind the bins are large wooden beams set against packed earth. It reminds me of the old mines I saw pictures of during my research. The ceiling is way too high to be the crawl space as well. All the while, I can hear little giggles, whispers, and shushing sounds. There are patters of little feet underneath the louder clops. Slowly, I remember what had happened earlier, the splatters of blood, the footsteps behind me. I look up towards the sounds of the clopping and see the big form of a ram shifting boxes around, throwing lids aside. Carl? Sort of looks like him, but he seems bigger, more shaggy. I shift my gaze to the darker corners of the room we're in, and I gasp as I see a pair of eyes staring at me from the darkness. A little fox and what looks like a small grin below the eyes, just barely visible. The sounds of shifting bins stops, and I hear the clopping coming closer to me. You awake, boy? I flinch, but pretend to be asleep anyway, not moving until the ram suddenly crouches by my head, causing me to cringe again. Yeah, you're not wrong. This is pretty much trauma. He feels around my body, checking the bindings before patting me on the face. I know you are awake, but it does not matter now. The ram stands up and starts moving away. Wait! I wince, not really sure if that had been a good idea. Either way, he stops and turns back to me. Yo, what the fuck? What the fuck? I look up at the ram, though it's hard with the way he's outlined in the incredibly bright light. It could actually be that light, but he definitely looks different. Much bigger. His horns wider and more grown out. What? His voice is different too. Deeper, more resonant. This isn't Carl anymore, but I guess I already know that. What happened? My voice sounds tiny and weak in comparison to the big ram. What do you mean, what happened? Carl, James, sets back to moving around bins, opening lids, tossing stuff out. Where's Raven and Jenna? You mean John? I don't say anything in response to that, still trying to look around. I keep catching glimpses of tiny feet and pairs of eyes just on the fringes of the dark nothingness. Their whispers and small giggles are a constant undertone. He's gone. I turn my attention back to the ram. What do you mean? I mean what I say, Otter. I swallow my fear, trying to let the numbness of my ankle take over the rest of my body. Where did he, go? James chuckles. I don't know. I used the knife and... The ram makes wiggly motions with his fingers above his horns. Gone. James shrugs his big shoulders. How? The ram shakes his head again. I know as much of this place as you, Otter. What about Raven? Who? The dog. The husky. Carl shrugs again. Same thing. Silence drags on as the ram offers nothing else, turning back to his work. I work my hands around a bit, feeling a good deal of give in the bindings. They don't really feel like any sort of rope, though, more like clothes. I close my eyes, trying not to let the overpowering fear take over. Carl, are you there? No response. Another giggle to my right draws my attention. I see another fox, even smaller than the first one. He dashes past the light, his figure blotting it out for just a moment. I hear a slap, then a snarl from James. Little shits. I watch as the fox disappears into the darkness. I stare for a while before quietly venturing another question. Who are they? Another pair of eyes dance around behind the light. James doesn't respond. I remember the newspaper clippings about the missing boys, the serial killer. Well, can't find all of them, but this is probably enough. I hear some rustling, then a huge jumble of thuds and clattering sounds as James dumps a bin onto the dirt-covered ground. The ram stomps off, disappearing behind the light. Things go quiet for a moment, aside from the distant clopping of the ram's footsteps. Then the whispering starts up again, and I feel several pairs of eyes on me. First one, then two, then 5 tiny figures appear in front of the light. I can hear more behind me. Who are you? Please. I try to cringe into a tight ball, but the bindings have me terribly exposed. They're dressed in old-fashioned clothes, overalls, denim, and some are shirtless. Maybe it's Masita. What do you want? I close my eyes, waiting, wondering if maybe they'll kill me. It would probably be for the best. I'm tired. Tired of this nightmare. Fingers start poking at my wrists. Hey! I try to jerk away, and as I do, my left hand slips out of the bindings. I pause, then a loud bang comes from toward the light, and the small figures all disappear with the rush of the wind. Goddamn little shits! James mutters from behind the light. I hear the sound of sloshing liquid inside of a large container. As discreetly as I can, I start to try and work my other hand around, using my free one to loosen up the bindings. It's definitely clothes, and they're poorly tied together. The sloshing sounds gets a bit louder as James steps in front of the floodlight. Then he tips the container he's holding upside down, and I see a long nozzle, light shining through the translucent neck. I realize what it is, and as I hear liquid pattering onto the pile James has made, the smell of gasoline hits my nose, and as I start to panic. Carl, wait, stop! My other hand pops free as I start to writhe around, but it's my legs that I need to get me out of here. Carl, James, please, don't do this. Can you let me go first? James moves away from the pile to pour the gas on the other bins. Why are you doing this to me? He flashes me a grin before continuing to splash gas onto all of the bins, walking in a circle around me. Getting rid of evidence. You're part of the evidence. The whispers get more excited, the children running back and forth in front of the floodlight. I would have stabbed you earlier, but I lost it in that damn husky when I put it through his gut. James glances back at me. This is what happens when you meddle. Once Carl completes the circle of bins, he disappears behind the floodlight again. At that point, I start to pull at the bindings wildly, tugging at my ankles, internally screaming at every tug on my injury. This time, the foxes don't approach. They just watch from the darkness. Help me! I sob through clenched teeth at them, but they don't move. I stop struggling, instead trying to feel through the bindings, tugging here and there, trying to loosen something. Finally, I start to feel the knots shift a bit. My right leg comes free. The whispers crescendo along with some giggling sounds. I hear James coming back and I try to keep twisted up in my feigned hog-tie position. A glow appears in the darkness and I see James step in front of the floodlight with a lighter in his hand. Sorry, Otter, but I need to thank you and your friends for finally bringing this all to a close. The ram puts his free hand to his chest. I really thought I would spend a lot longer worrying about this all getting out, but now, he raises the lighter. I can finally put this to an end. A small figure runs from behind the light and with a loud smack, the lighter goes flying. It's flung in my direction and thankfully, it goes out as it flies through the air, then skitters on the dirt towards me. I drop the facade and uncurl, snatching the lighter up and struggling to stand. I'm just in time to see a huge ram charging me, his horns down, aimed straight at my chest. I jump to the side but get clipped in the elbow, sending me and the lighter spinning through the air. James doesn't even go for me, instead disappearing into the dark after the lighter. I don't wait to see how it turns out, rushing toward the exit to the mine. Just a few feet away from the exit, when I hear a huge whooshing sound and wind seems to rush from the exit, almost blowing me from the back. Breath is sucked from my lungs and I go down to my knees, covering my head as it feels like all my fur is going to be burned off. I look behind me at the blinding fire. Carl? I cover my mouth and nose, trying to breathe, but the heart beats me back like a physical force. And now, everything is real. I'm in the crawl space, the massive beams are gone, the ceiling is lower, there's no more mine. I back up into the doorway, getting blasted with smoke. Carl! I scream as loud as I can, all the while I'm still moving back. And then I see the familiar horns and Carl appears from the smoke and flames, singed but alive. He charges at me and I see the rage in his eyes. I might be back in the mansion, but Carl isn't. I back away into the basement, out of the crawl space, ducking low as smoke billows over me. It looks like Carl's coming after me, but just as he reaches out, little tiny paws grasp around his waist, his chest, and his face, pulling him back into the crawl space. Carl reaches out, latching onto the door frame, snarling with rage. His eyes are wide, spittle flying from his mouth as he fights to pull himself from the grasp of the small foxes. I watch and only hesitate for a moment before I reach out to grasp one of Carl's hands. He may be possessed, he may have tried to kill me, but my friend is still in there somewhere. And there's no way in hell I'll willingly let him burn to death. I lean back, pulling the ram as hard as I can, getting a face full of smoke as I stand to get some leverage. Carl, or James, grunts and growls, as if unsure of what to do. The little hands hold firm, though, pulling back into the flaming pit behind the ram. I get weak, my lungs screaming in the smoky air, feeling my limbs start to give out. And then something gives, but it's Carl. The hands pull through him, like something large and transparent gets pulled out. It flies back with a howl, and Carl flies forward into me. The door goes closed with a snap. I fall back with a crunch, my already hazy mind almost blacking out as a ram falls on top of me. The following events are a blur to me. I remember seeing Carl staring down at me, yelling my name. I remember a blind stumble through smoke, a dark basement, crumbling stairs, and 2 sets of bloody footprints through the kitchen and out into the night. We follow them, and then sitting in the desert, my head in Carl's lap, I watch his eyes glitter in the dancing firelight. His eyes are blank and far away. I reach up to touch his face, say thanks somehow. He doesn't look down. His eyes stay empty. Yo. Is that like a bad ending? Actually, let me Google that real quick. Let me Google that real quick. Let's Google that real quick. Actually, no. I won't show you that, but I am going to Google it real quick because I'm genuinely curious. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I imagine it's the bad ending. Yeah, I just read it, and yeah, that was the bad ending. Oh, I like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let me just. Can I like skip this? Yeah, I can. Okay, we are going to go back in time to around here and just skip through all this. This is going to take a while. This is certainly taking a while. I think it's like maybe like 5 or 6 hours of like gameplay, I think. I don't know. I'm actually curious what would happen if I choose is drunk, I shouldn't let him. I'm genuinely curious, so we're going to do that real quick. I smirk at him. Carl, you're drunk. No, I'm not. He bursts into giggles even before he finishes the sentence. The ram then decides to roll over directly onto my chest, without a quiet irk trying to push him off my more sensitive areas. Fortunately, he seems to get the hint and prop himself up on his elbows. Tell you what, if you ask me again in the morning sober, I'll say yes. Aw, come on. Okay, so it looks like nothing changes. So, yeah. Pennywise bullshit. But it's important to me what you think. We're in this together. No, whether or not it made Carl feel good, I can't shake the bad feeling it gives me. I rest a hand on his. No, after everything that happened, don't trust whatever it is. Carl watches me closely. Seriously, we need to be more careful. Besides, I lean my head against his shoulder again. We are in this together. We don't need that thing meddling with us to get through it. I feel some of the tension go out of Carl's muscles, and we wrap each other more tightly into our respective embraces. We sit in there for a while, Carl absorbing what I just said. It's clear that whatever it is influencing Carl and probably Jenna is powerful, and we had to be careful. Whatever he decides, I just pray it's the right decision. I wake up groggily, my head throbbing a bit from laying it on the stiff pillow. Like the last time I woke up, it takes me a while to realize where I am. And, just like last time, I get a sinking feeling in my stomach when I realize where that is. I lay on my side, staring at the wall in front of me, watching shadows dance along the log bumps. It's depressing, though not as much as the last time. At some point, I guess I realized that there wasn't much I could do. Just go with it and hope something comes of it. At least there seemed to be a goal in the mind of whatever had control of this, whatever it was. Suddenly I feel an arm slide over my hip and I stiffen. Carl breathes into the back of my neck. You okay? I feel the soft warmth of Carl's body press up against my back. It's been a long, long time since I felt someone spoon me. Thinking about Leo, though, only makes my stomach knot up even more. Yeah. Carl picks up on it right away. His broad muzzle sneaks over my neck, and soon he's pressing his cheek against mine. I can feel him hesitating as he does it. His movement's kind of jerky and awkward. I almost laugh, but I have to remind myself that Carl probably hasn't done this before. At least not since high school. Definitely not with the guy, at least. A hand slides over my side, close to my crotch. It doesn't go lower, though, and keeps it pressed against my body. It feels nice, having someone close to me like this. Even though I've given up on trying to understand the situation, I'm still scared about what's happening. I can feel Carl's heart beating against my back, and I wonder if he's thinking about the same things. That's when I feel his very hard dick pressing against my ass. I almost laugh again. Here I am in a haunted ghost cabin, and my childhood friend is grinding up on me. Carl feels me tense up and lifts his hand away from my stomach. Sorry, is this not... I roll over abruptly to face him. His green eyes immediately look away from mine, and I see red creeping underneath the thin fur of his ear. I decide to go with that same technique I used last night and slide up against his soft body before pressing my lips against his. That seems to break the ice, and he immediately responds, pressing his tongue against my lips before I open them to let it in. Carl's surprisingly good at tongue kissing. Better than Leo was, anyway. It glides over my tongue before flicking against my teeth. I'm momentarily worried about how I haven't brushed for at least 2 days now, but Carl doesn't seem to mind. He hasn't either, after all. He wraps his hands around my back, sliding one under my body so that he can wrap me in a full embrace. The feeling of being enveloped in Carl's soft and strong warmth makes my heart skip a beat, and pretty soon I'm just as hard as he is. While his hands toy with my tail, I get to work running my hands under his shirt, sliding them along his firm belly before pushing his shirt up. Carl tenses and giggles. Oh fuck, that tickles. I pause and smirk at him. I barely touched you. I give his stomach a light prod and he curls up a bit more, grabbing at my wrist. Dude, I think I'm just not used to being touched like... I apply both hands this time, running them like spiders up his stomach and chest. Dude, no! He twists and writhes under my hands, desperately trying to stifle his giggles before finally snatching up my hands by the wrists. I'm reminded how strong he is when he easily rolls me to my back, straddling my hips as he pins my hands above my head. You asshole! Carl's breathing heavily, letting out a little giggle every now and then. Sorry, I've just never seen someone get so... I pause as I hear some movement from downstairs, followed by what sounds like Raven's voice. I'm reminded of our situation when I see some flakes of blood around Carl's nose and the bleed splotches on his shirt. I guess we're being a little loud. Yeah. How's your nose? Carl automatically raises a hand to touch his nose. Meh. Hurts a little bit, but I'm okay. That's good. I lay there in silence for a few seconds, feeling like the moment is kind of ruined. I look again at the walls, remembering that we should be looking for something instead of messing around like this. What you looking at? Not sure. Hey, we should be finding something, right? My crotch is starting to get a little uncomfortable under the weight of Carl's body. I mean, didn't that ghost, ancestor, whatever it was, tell you we needed to find stuff? Carl rubs his nose. Yeah, in the last place we were in at least. I guess it would be the same for this place, right? Unless it was what we already burned up. Yeah. Carl sits there quietly, thinking. Well, I think I might try to look downstairs. You want to stay up here and look around? Yeah. I want to get the other two to start looking too. The threat of Jenna hangs heavy in the air, and the way we're both obviously avoiding it makes it all heavier. What about your ankle? I flex it around, the twinge a lot less sharp now, though the stiffness feels even worse. I think I'm okay. Let me try it out. Okay. Carl sits there for a while longer, then seems to suddenly realize that he needs to get off so I can get up. He scrambles off awkwardly as I sit up and swing my legs over the side of the bed. Pressing my foot to the floor, the twinge that runs through my ankle is minuscule. Standing up, I'm able to put some pressure on it before it hurts too much. The problem is that I can't bend the joint at all, leaving me with an obvious and lumbering limp. I think I'm okay. Can I get you down the stairs at least? I warm to the concern in Carl's voice that I don't really want him and Jenna anywhere near each other, especially after what she might have heard just now. Nah, I want to test it out a bit more. I turn my head to look back at Carl, and I still see a worried look on his face. I'll call you if I need any help, okay? Carl purses his lips. Alright. The trip down the stairs is ponderous and awkward. I'm probably loud too, because when I reach the bottom, I find both Raven and Jenna already staring at me. Hey! Hey! Jenna doesn't say anything, continuing to watch me. We stare at each other awkwardly for a bit before she finally moves her head to look down at my leg. How's your leg? Oh, it's alright. A bit stiff though. I grasp at the opportunity to talk about anything other than what we're obviously avoiding. I think I should be able to walk normally, maybe in a few days. Hopefully in a few days we'll be out of here so you can do that. Yeah. Jenna is definitely not herself right now. Her eyes are vacant, dull, and it's hard to explain, but they lack the mischievous and compassionate look that I'm used to seeing. Her voice is weird too. It's deeper, more husky. We'll be out of there by then. Raven says it with a grin as he leans back in the chair he's sitting on. Oh, you sweet, sweet, dumb boy. You are too precious for this world. Yeah, actually I wanted to talk to you guys about that. About what? About how to get out of here. And how do we do that? Well, I was thinking that the last time we were able to unlock the door, all we had to do was find that letter. Raven blinks at me. So, we find a letter? Or something like that. We just need to find something, I think. We did find something. I look over at Jenna. Huh? I said we did find something. Carl burned it. Oh, well, I don't think Carl burned it. He did. I pause. But there's gotta be something else. Or maybe whatever's doing this has a way of putting something else here. The others don't say anything. I don't know, but we can't just sit here. Looking around is the least we can do. Where's Carl? Jenna's standing up now, looking at the ceiling. Faintly, I can hear the clopping of Carl's hooves on the soft wood. He's looking around upstairs. Jenna continues to look up at the ceiling, her face stony. Let's start in this room. Raven stands up and starts walking along the wall, looking up and down, prodding at the spaces between. Jenna's still looking up at the ceiling, and I worry that she's going to try and go upstairs. Hey, Jenna, can you help me look around in the kitchen? Jenna looks back at me. Huh? My ankle still kind of hurts. It'd be nice to be able to lean on someone if I need to walk far, like to the kitchen. Jenna pauses before moving over to my side. She stands there stoically, and I awkwardly wrap an arm around her shoulders. Thanks. Yeah. We amble slowly to the kitchen. Jenna stops in the middle of the room and waits. I guess I'll start with the cabinets? My voice goes up at the end, like I'm asking a question. Jenna doesn't say anything, so I stumble away from her again awkwardly, before finding the support on the wooden pantry. I hesitantly start opening some of the cupboards, feeling a lot less into my idea than I was just a few minutes earlier. Jenna stares out the window. So, are you okay? She finally looks back at me, frowning. I'm fine. Why? You're being really distant. Do you need me to stand next to you? No, I mean, you seem like you're not really here mentally. I'm sorry. I open another pantry door to a set of glass mugs. Is it something to do with Carl? I know that Jenna is going through something similar to what Carl is. I just have no idea what's doing it or why. Something that wants this to go as unsmoothly as possible, clearly. I don't have a problem with Carl. I mean, what you did yesterday, I just have a problem with the way he acts. He could do a lot if he put his mind to it. It takes me a moment to realize that she's talking about what happened before. All of this. So, you attacked him. What? No! That was something else. I turn around and finally see something familiar about Jenna. Some life in her eyes. Maybe all I have to do is talk about stuff before this whole warp to the ghost dimension. I mean, he tries, he just has problems. Shouldn't a psychology major know that? Jenna looks away from me. I guess, but I'm not a therapist. So what? So I don't know. No, I mean, shouldn't anyone have sympathy? I'd have a little more sympathy if he'd actually try and get help. He has, but it's not that easy. Again, I don't feel like I should be explaining this to someone who has 4 years of psychology under her belt. I tried to get help, but I didn't feel better for years. Jenna doesn't say anything. Carl's problems didn't really start until his first year of college. I keep pulling open cupboards, my heart sinking a little more each time there's nothing inside. I mean, yeah, he had problems before, but it's only getting worse for him. Well, it doesn't matter what I think about Carl right now. We're trying to find a way out of here, and screwing around isn't going to help. Jenna says it in such a way that I feel like it was supposed to be pointed. There's little doubt now that she heard us messing around upstairs. I sigh and reach up to pull open the last cabinet. He's not who you think he is. It's so quiet and deep, I'm not sure that it's Jenna that said that. I turn around, but she's already on the other side of the room, standing next to the opposite set of pantries. Did you say something? She doesn't respond. I stare at her for another few seconds before slowly turning back around. The fur on the back of my neck prickles at the idea of turning my back on her, it. Why did these damn ghosts have to be so subtle and cryptic? If that's what it is, of course. Seems like James had no trouble telling Carl about the whole clue-finding crap. Why couldn't they just tell him, or even Jenna right now instead of creeping me out? The kitchen isn't very big, so I run out of things to search through pretty quickly. I skip the area around the window, though, not having forgotten what happened yesterday. Yesterday? I don't know how to keep track of time in this place. I look back over at Jenna, who's still in the same place, staring at the pantry. The thought that maybe I myself could be possessed momentarily passes through my mind. For some reason, I doubt it, even though I'm not sure why. I don't really feel like I'm of interest to whatever it is that's doing this. At least not directly. As I continue to stare, I see something past Jenna, at the base of the stairs. A ram's horn curling around the corner to the entrance of the stairs. I stare for a moment. Hey, I'm gonna go upstairs. Jenna's head snaps back sharply to stare at me, and I swear I hear her neck crack. Just to see if he found anything. I'll be back. I awkwardly sidle my way out from the kitchen towards the stairs, Jenna's gaze following me the entire way. Once I reach the base of the stairs, I find Carl standing there. He jumps when I come around the corner and stands straight up, one hand resting against the wall. His eyes are red and the short fur on his face is all mussed up. Carl, are you okay? I whisper it, but Carl immediately turns around and starts back up the stairs quietly. I follow him, wondering what it could be. Did he find something horrific? I wouldn't be surprised at all if that were the case. Once we reach the top of the stairs, Carl strides straight for the bedroom. Carl, what happened? Did you find something? At that moment, he turns around and hugs me. It's so enveloping and firm that the air is almost crushed out of me. I grunt and freeze for a moment, listening to Carl huff into my chest. He's holding me like I'm something precious, like if he lets go I'm going to be swept away somehow. I'm quiet for a few seconds, letting Carl get whatever this is out of his system. My arms are pinned to my sides anyway, so it's not like I can respond physically. Hey, are you okay? It's a dumb question because none of us are okay. Carl finally lets go. He turns away from me right away to sit on the bed and put his face in his hands. My shirt is damp, and I look down at and see 2 wet spots where his eyes had been. Has he been crying? I'm tearing up now. Tentatively, I sit down next to him at the foot of the bed and put my hand on his back. Hey, what happened? Carl sniffs loudly, wiping his eyes before putting his face back down in his hands. It just... The ram sighs before finally straightening up to lean back on his hands, looking away from me. I just feel like shit is all. Can I help? I just had a moment. Couldn't breathe. I keep rubbing his back, knowing that there really isn't anything I can do. Panic attack? How come? A lot of things. Carl shivers under my touch. And, I feel like everyone's mad at me. What? No one's mad at you. Well, Jenna, first of all. But I feel like everyone thinks this is my fault or something. What? Why would any of this be your fault? He was probably right about Jenna, though. It's my house. My great whatever it is. It's all just my shit. He sniffs. I don't know. Just being alone gets me thinking about this stuff. About how I'm still fucking everything up. Dude, Jenna told us fucked up things are happening everywhere. Not just your house. I look around. Which I'm assuming we're still in. Maybe. I look back down at Carl. What brought all this up? We're all just working together to get ourselves out of here. Carl wipes his face and sniffs noisily before sitting up straight. I wasn't finding anything, and I started thinking about what would happen if we never do find anything. That's not gonna happen. These things are doing this, or trying to tell us something, right? I don't know about that, man. They seem just as confused and angry as we are. Carl looks at me with his reddened eyes. It's like they're fighting, too. Yeah, I guess they're having some issues. Carl reaches out and I let him pull me into his side. I don't resist and Carl chuckles. And it's just creepy being up here alone. I fit against him almost perfectly, and I lay my head against his shoulder. Sorry. For what? I feel like I should be the strong one? Huh? And you've already seen me cry like twice. Hey, I don't believe in the strong one type of crap. I rest a hand on Carl's thigh, squeezing it. You're strong for the other person when they need it, and both people will need it eventually. Carl shifts against me, and he laughs nervously. You're talking about us like we're a thing. Aren't we a thing? Look at what we're doing right now. I don't know, man. It's hard to say when you're stuck in a haunted cabin. Phelan presses his nose to my head, inhaling. This place is doing weird things to me. I squeeze his thigh again. Yeah, we can talk about it when we actually get out of here. When this stuff isn't fucking with our heads. So, we are a thing, but just in the ghost dimension. Sure, for now. I'm fine with that, for now. He breathes in deeply. You smell good. I snort. What do I smell like? Like, the ocean. Dude, I'm a river otter. Besides, the river and ocean smell bad. Carl nibbles into the side of my neck and I gasp, trying to pull away from him. He pulls me back easily with his superior strength before pushing me back onto the bed, teasing at my neck with his warm nose. Carl, stop! I hiss at him, trying not to burst out laughing. He mumbles against my neck. Hey, I'm just getting you back for earlier. I giggle helplessly against a closed mouth, trying to keep quiet. I can't deny I like this, but Jenna's criticism just minutes earlier has me feeling hesitant. He starts to move lower, but at that moment, I hear a metal clang echo up the stairs. We both pause and Carl's large ears are perked against under his beanie. I prop myself up on my elbows and look towards the doorway. I guess we should get back to searching. Yeah. With the moment clearly over, Carl sits back up on the bed, inside of the bed, while I straighten out my shirt. You found something? Raven's voice drifts faintly up the stairs. Carl and I look at each other. Hey, maybe we won't need to. You want to go check? Yeah, wait here a sec. If it's nothing, I'll come back up and help you look around, okay? Okay. Carl scoots to the side so I can get off the bed. Takes me a few minutes to get down the stairs on my stiff ankle. Once I get into the kitchen, I'm confronted with an odd scene. Jenna's halfway into the wood-burning stove, reaching into the back, probably up into the metal tube. What are you doing? She found something. Raven's standing off to the side of the stove, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Aww. Raven, you are way too precious to be here. You should not be here at all. It's stuck. Jenna grunts as she adjusts herself, reaching in from a different angle. What is it? I hobble slowly across the room towards them. You need help? I realize he's talking to me, but I shake my head at the husky as I watch Jenna pull back and look into the opening of the stove. Goddamn thing shouldn't be that hard to get. Maybe I can help, but Jenna's already plunging her hand back in, head sticking just out the opening as she does. That seems to garner some success as she smirks. Ha! Got it. Then her whole body jerks as she's seemingly yanked into the opening. Raven yelps as Jenna grabs onto the side of the stove to keep from getting pulled in. Oh my gosh! Jenna? My voice rises in panic as I see her get yanked a second time. Raven automatically steps up next to her and grabs her arm. A third yank almost pulls him off his feet. I run over to help and wrap my arm around Jenna's waist to get a better grip. Another jolt and I'm able to feel the power of whatever has a hold of Jenna on myself. What's happening? I hear thudding and rustling in the stove like something's turning over angrily and repeatedly. The image of some kind of caged animal passes through my mind and it sends chills up my spine. No, you fucking don't! I look up at the fox and I notice that she doesn't look scared at all. Instead, she looks pissed off, her lips drawn back in a snarl, teeth bared viciously. She's talking to whatever's in the stove. I feel the muscles in her body tense up and writhing under my hands as she twists to get free. I look around her body at Raven. His face, in contrast, is a mask of horror. Raven! His wide eyes snap to mine. Get a grip round her body and we'll pull at the same time. He briefly lets go of Jenna's arm to lean down on her other side and wrap his arms around her waist. Okay, on 3. 1, 2... Another yank and suddenly Jenna's upper half is pulled into the stove. I lose my balance and fall back on my butt, knocking my head against the metal stove. My eyes water and I let go with one hand, desperately rubbing at the back of my head while I loosely keep a grip on Jenna with the other. Chase! Raven's actually sliding into the fireplace himself at this point. I try to get my bearings and pull myself back up next to Jenna, but at that point something big and bulky comes barreling into the room. My vision clears just in time to see the big ram reaching in for Jenna's body, practically pushing Raven aside. His horns clang loudly against the stove as he wraps his arms around Jenna's body and pulls back with all his 270 pounds behind it. The fox emerges slowly, both of their arms still stuck in the stove, a determined look still on her face. Carl lets go for half a second, lunging forward to grab both of Jenna's elbows. He yanks back again, letting out a strained grunt. As her wrists emerge from the stove, I get a glance of the black tendrils wrapping around them before those tendrils suddenly disappear. Jenna and Carl are both launched back, Jenna getting a cushioned landing on top of the ram as Carl lets out a loud wheeze. I hobble over to them, kneeling next to Carl as Jenna rolls off of him, eliciting another grunt. She sits up while Carl continues to lay there, his eyes wide. You guys okay? Carl waves a hand at me, rolling over onto his side as he gasps breathlessly. Jenna sits next to him, holding her hands up. I can already see some nasty swelling under the fur covering her wrists. I wince. Jenna, are you alright? I'm fine. She's not looking at her wrists, though. Instead, it's at an ash-smudged folded piece of paper in her hands. From the bits that aren't covered, I can see that the paper is yellowed and ancient-looking. Not at all like the clearly photocopied newspaper we'd seen earlier. Jenna looks down at it, standing up. I hear her groan next to me and turn back to Carl. Can't go a day without getting beat up. I rub his shoulder as I look down at him, smiling. Whoa, that was kind of heroic. Carl grunts as he sits up. You think so? Yeah. All at the last second, too. Carl rubs his knees. Would have gotten here earlier if I hadn't tripped down the stairs like twice. He stares at the stove. What the hell was that? I look too into the yawning black hole and shiver. I don't know. It was all black and smoky, like what we saw before. Think it'll come out of there? Raven suddenly steps in to lift up the stove door, twisting the handles to lock it. He yelps as he does, jumping back as soon as the deed is done. I chuckle, then look back at Carl. Over his shoulder, Jenna walks into my field of vision. The paper is open in her hands, and she's holding it over the candle. All at once, I realize what she's trying to do. I choke on whatever I'm about to say next, and leap up awkwardly onto my injured ankle. Jenna! Luckily, Jenna's only about 5 feet away, and I practically fall into her, pushing her away from the candle. We both fall against the bench under the window. Jenna's hand smacks against my nose, bringing tears to my eyes. I yelp as she pulls her fingers in, raking lines of fire down my nose with her claws. There's a pounding in my ears, and distantly I register that the drums have started up again. She twists out from under me and pulls away from the bench. When the fuck did she get this strong? I numbly keep my grip on her wrists, and she spins, swinging me away from her. I lose my grip and stumble back, stepping wrong on my foot and re-bending my ankle the exact same way I did last time. I yelp again, much more loudly this time as I crumple to the ground. Carl swears and jumps over me at Jenna. Wait! I try and grab him by the hoof that's passing over me, but I miss miserably. As I sit up, I hear an ungodly bestial snarling, and I look up to see Carl wrestling a kicking and scratching Jenna to the ground. That is fucking it! He pins her there while she writhes under him, trying to scratch at his face. Stop it, guys! Raven is still standing off to the side, his paws on his head, pulling at his ears. I crawl over to their writhing bodies, one eye wincing shut as each movement sends a lightning bolt through my leg. I grab at Jenna's hands, forcing them down above her head. Jenna, stop! Jenna suddenly kicks one of her legs between Carl's legs as he kneels over her. Fuck! He crumples over on top of Jenna, lying on her legs as he tries to pin his thighs together. I look down into Jenna's face. Stop it! What the hell are you doing? Jenna snarls up at me, but it's softer this time. Her struggles die down a little, and after holding my gaze for about 10 seconds, she looks away. I relax my grip a bit, gasping as I try to rearrange my foot so there's not so much pressure on my ankle. I don't know. I pull the piece of paper out from her limp fingers and push away from her, waiting to see if she'll come after me again. She doesn't, instead just laying there with her hands above her head, staring at the ceiling. Raven, still with his fingers twisted around his ears, looks over at me. Yeah? Take Jenna upstairs. Take a nap or something. I think we need to be kept separate for now. As Raven hurries over to Jenna, Carl rolls off with a groan. Raven's easily able to coax Jenna up off the floor, and they head upstairs, Jenna looking down at the floor all the while. I scoot over to Carl, holding my breath as each drag sends another spasm through my leg. He's on his side, hands between his legs as he squints at the wall. Once he notices me, he looks at my ankle. Fuck. Are you okay? Are you okay, man? No. I don't think so. I stepped on it wrong again. God damn it. What the fuck is her problem? It's okay. You're just going to have to carry me again. Carl chuckles before letting out another softer groan. What did I say about getting beat up all the time? Are you okay? No. She kicked me in the fucking balls. I sit quietly for a moment, the pain in my ankle fading into a more cold electric sting rather than molten lava. What the hell is going on? Why would she try to burn it? Carl is quiet for a moment, then he looks up at me again. You know, right? What? I could be wrong since nothing makes sense here. What? You know this probably has something to do with James and John? I rub the back of my head again, feeling a bump swelling up already. Didn't we already figure that's what's going on? I mean, with Jenna, you know how James was sort of talking to me? Yeah? Like he told you what to find? Yeah, but I think something is talking to Jenna too. John? Maybe. To make sure you guys fight. To make sure you guys fight? Weren't they lovers? Would there be a reason for John wanting this paper not to be read? Carl doesn't say anything, choosing to roll onto his back and lay his hands out to either side of him. I look down at the paper in my hand. Well, should I read this now or wait for the others? Might as well do it now. She might try something again. Alright, I'm going to read it out loud then. Carl waves a hand in the air, indicating that I should go ahead. I scoot back against the wall so that I can stretch my leg out and start reading. My dearest John, I've been hearing terrible things lately. They say that you've been accusing me of the most egregious monstrosities. I dare not believe them. In fact, I will not until I hear your words for myself. There must be some misunderstanding. Has one of my many political enemies pitted you against me? Are they using the missing native boys as a weapon against my campaign? I would not think that to be below them. What concerns me most is you. Please, visit me at my mansion. We must speak on this. I very much look forward to your company and believe that we can soon set this straight. Yours forever, James. I look up at Carl. He looks back at me. So, what do you think that means? Carl rubs inconspicuously at his crotch. I guess something went wrong between James and John? Well, yeah, but what? Sounds like he tried to frame him or something. I remember the newspaper clipping that had somehow gone up in flames. Hey, that newspaper article that burned up said something about a Meseta kid that went missing. So native kids were going missing and John used it to get at James somehow? Maybe. We still don't know if John was doing it anyway. James doesn't seem to know either. I wonder if we'd been better off if Carl had a little bit of James in him right now. At least then we'd have a better idea of what is going on. Maybe. Then again, the situation is so volatile with Jenna, I'm glad we don't have another ghost to deal with in Carl. I look at the ram who's in the middle of pulling his waistband out to look at his junk. If James is still influencing Carl somehow, then he isn't really showing it. You okay? Carl abruptly lets go of the waistband, letting it snap back against his waist. Huh? Yeah, I'm fine. Are your, balls okay? Carl smiles ruefully. They look fine, still kinda hurt. I think about making a joke about making them feel better, but that doesn't really feel appropriate right now. I'm actually more worried about Jenna, and not just because she can beat me up. Yeah. It seemed that at this point, Jenna isn't really Jenna anymore. Should we talk to her about, I don't know, resisting it? It's worked for me. I look in the direction of the door as a loud click emanates from it. Carl's long ears perk and he follows my gaze. We both stare at it for a few seconds. Do you think... Maybe. Slowly, Carl gets to his feet, still a little bow-legged, and hobbles towards the door. Careful. I say, a little apprehensive that something might open it from the other side. Carl doesn't say anything and slowly shuffles towards the door, pausing in front of it for a few seconds. Slowly, he reaches out and rests a hand on the handle and gives it a slight push. It shifts open a few inches. Carl looks back at me. I think we should get the others. We all stand around the door. Carl to my right and Raven to my left. Raven and I making sure there's maximum distance between Jenna and Carl. The door still shifted open. Still shifted open a few inches, and the vertical black void it reveals is a little ominous. So, we just go through? I don't know, man. That's what we did last time, right? Yeah. I feel like the real question is if we really want to go through the door in the first place. Is it just going to lead to another terrible place where bad things happen? I feel a void similar to the one I'm looking up at open up in my chest. The thought of being trapped in a loop, going through door after door that leads to nothing but horror. Already, this place was having an effect on Jenna that seems to be getting worse with each passing hour. How much longer can she keep it together? What did the letter say? I tense up. Anything she does now is putting me on edge, like I'm just waiting for her to lash out again. My hand drifts conspiratorially to my pocket where the folded up letter is. I glance to my right at Carl, but he's got his eyes on the door. A few things. Just more history stuff. About what? I decide at that moment that I have to lie. We need to keep Jenna, or John, calm if we want to get through this. I have a feeling that Jenna, John, wouldn't want to hear about James revealing what I assume are secrets. I didn't read anything about John trying to sabotage James in my research, but maybe that's what James is trying to tell us. So I shrug my shoulders, moving my hand away from my pocket. Stuff about the mine, how, there wasn't enough of it to stay in the town. I'm worried Jenna might challenge my lie, for whatever reason. She doesn't say anything, though, and Carl just keeps on staring straight ahead. Raven suddenly claps his hands together, making Carl and I jump. So, should we open it? Raven reaches out. Wait. The husky pauses and looks back at me, expectantly, his black ears tipped forward. Should we do this? I mean, it's probably just going to lead to another place where we have to find another thing. Yeah? So maybe we shouldn't keep going? I stumble over my words, trying to piece together my feelings and put them into sentences as I go. I just think that they're not really on our side, you know? I make an effort not to look at Jenna. So, if they're not, why are we doing what they want us to do? I realize I'm shaking now, and I make an effort to make my hands still. That's when I feel something big and warm slide into my right hand, and I glance down to find Carl holding it. He gives me a quick look and a small smile before turning his attention back to the door. What else should we do? Raven's tone isn't accusatory, but it is genuinely curious. I don't have a very good answer. Well, maybe we can find a way back somehow. Maybe we're still in Carl's house right now. Carl's house. That place seems like it's thousands of miles and years away at this point. Maybe we can, wake ourselves up somehow. Raven doesn't respond, and neither does anyone else. I realize how stupid I must sound. Sorry, I just feel like we're taking things too fast right now. Carl gives my hand another squeeze. Hey dude, we're all a little scared. We can talk about things. Carl looks past me at Raven and Jenna. No rush. I'm actually starting to feel the same way. I feel my cheeks burn at the way I'm holding everyone back because I'm scared. So, when I had that guy in my head, it sort of felt like he was taking us somewhere. Carl runs the hand, not holding mine, up to one of his horns, scratching at it. Like an endpoint, you know? Raven fidgets with one of his ears. Like a good endpoint? Yeah, man. I think so. That didn't sound very convincing. You can stay here if you want, Otter. It takes me a second to realize she's talking to me. Is she really that gone? I just hope that if we reach the end of this, we can get her back somehow. Whoa, Jenna, that's crazy. I cough to clear my throat. No, I'll go. I just wanted to think about it for a second. Have you thought about it then? Yeah. I look at Carl, but he only offers me a shrug and a comforting rub on the shoulder. Well, if that's all, then let's go. Jenna steps forward to grab the door handle, and I bite my tongue to keep from saying we should wait again. The door swings open to reveal blackness, just like the last time. Unlike the last time, though, there's a spot of flickering light in the distance. The fire. Everything's quiet right now. No drumbeat, but the darkness is unnatural. It's inky and thick, like it's alive. I get the unnerving feeling that it's trying to eat the light from the fire. Maybe towards the fire, Jenna suddenly steps forward, and just like that, she's swallowed by the darkness. Jenna, wait! She ignores me. Carl gives his shoulders another shrug. Well, if she's being, persuaded, I guess she probably knows where she's going. I see her form pass in front of the firelight a few times, then she's gone. Alright, here we go. Despite his nervousness, Raven still sounds cheerful about stepping into oblivion. You ready, dude? I look up at Carl, and he's gazing back at me warmly, an encouraging smile on his face. Dude, I'm reaching my limits too. If we have to do another place like this... His ears droop, looking almost defeated. I nod, swallowing as quietly as I can. He pulls me into his side by my hand and wraps my arm around his shoulder. Just stay close, okay? Yeah. I step forward with him and immediately we're immersed in blackness. Not only do things go dark visually, but the change is physical too. I don't know if it's all in my head, but I feel heavier, like the darkness is pushing down on my shoulders. It's colder too, to the point where I can feel the heat radiating off Carl's body when I brush up against him. Doing okay, man? Yeah. You? Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. The going is slow, and not just because of my injured, probably broken, ankle. The ground is uneven and rocky, like we're outside walking in the desert, which I realize is exactly what we're doing when we walk straight into what feels like sagebrush. Carl thrashes around with the hand not holding onto me, and we're able to sort of stumble around it. Where the hell are we? I mutter as I stub my toe painfully on a rock. Outside? Yeah, but we're outside. The desert, right? So do you think that we're still in Echo? Carl's quiet for a moment. Maybe, but not really. I don't think we can just walk to our houses. I wonder if maybe all the others, TJ, Leo, and Flynn, are out here too, in the darkness. I want to call out, but I'm too nervous that that's going to attract something to us. Still remember the black figure dancing around the fire we're walking towards at this very moment. We're close enough now that I'm starting to be able to make out Carl in the darkness. I look back at the house to see how far we've gone. All that I can make out now are two rectangles of light, one for the door we came out of, and one for the kitchen window. In the latter, a dark figure stands framed by the faint light outside. I squint, not really sure of what I'm seeing. Then it moves, disappearing from the window. I stop walking and Carl stops with me, looking back over his shoulder. What? Did one of the others go back? The black figure appears again, this time in the doorway of the house. I don't even have time to react to that before it steps forward and the door swings shut with a distant snap. A press of blackness takes its place. I grab onto Carl more tightly. What the hell? My mind flashes back to the black thing I'd seen crawling out of the wardrobe. Come on! I nudge into Carl's side, trying to get him to hurry along while resisting the urge to try and run on my twisted ankle. I'm realizing that it might come to that. Raven? Jenna? I call out into the darkness ahead of us, wanting to warn them. Over our ragged breathing, though, there's dead silence all around us, except for a drumbeat. Either they can't hear us, or they can't respond. Carl's gripping onto me with both of his hands, practically hauling me off my feet as he pulls me along. Suddenly, he stops. What the fuck am I doing? He lets me go and crouches down in front of me. On my back. I'm there before he even finishes his sentence, and soon my face is bouncing off his hard skull as he starts sprinting towards the fire. Whether it's in my head or not, I swear I can hear a slithering sound behind me, like a snake sliding over dry leaves. I shiver, not wanting to look back, but I do anyway, trying to peer into the darkness. Of course, I can't see anything, but I swear something flashes in front of the lone rectangle of light coming from the cabin's kitchen window. The rustling sounds get louder, and now I can't pretend that I'm imagining it. It casts a picture into my mind. That black shadow creature contorting and bending through the sagebrush that Carl was having so much trouble moving through. I hold on to one of his horns and lean towards his ear. Carl, it's getting close, and then my stomach lurches as it feels like the floor just suddenly drops away. Next thing I know, my nose smacks hard into the back of Carl's head before I flip over, landing on my back in what feels like a sea of sharp rocks. I lay there for a second, dazed, staring at the black ocean above me, wondering if any of this is real. Am I still dreaming? Maybe I'll wake up in my dorm, probably late to my legal and ethical issues in journalism class. Fuck, are you okay? A muffled voice breaks through my haze of confusion and pain. Then I'm being yanked back up as Carl pulls me to my feet and clumsily shoves me back onto his back. Sorry, sorry. Fine. I can barely mumble through my numb mouth, which feels like it's full of pennies. I can see I'm making dark stains on the back of Carl's shirt. It feels like my face is caved in. I wonder if my nose is broken, but the fear of the pursuit is returning, and I quickly clutch at Carl's horns before he resumes his sprint. He finally comes to a stumbling halt in front of the massive bonfire, which had looked so real from the cabin. We both stare up at it, the heat almost unbearable. The whispers behind me reach a crescendo, the hissing just over my shoulder. What are we supposed to do? My voice raises in pitch as I look back behind us, the black shape now discernible in the firelight as it slithers around the rocks and sagebrush. It's like a person imitating a snake. I grip onto Carl as he turns to face it, then takes a step back, then another. I don't know. I cling to the ram, and I can feel him trembling underneath me. As the creature reaches the edge of the circle of firelight, Carl turns and starts running past the fire. And then my muscles seize up, my jaw clenches, my eyes roll back, and I feel myself falling backwards. Okay. I'm gonna leave it off there. There's no way I'm doing all that again tonight. But well, Carl certainly has a lot of anxiety. But yeah. Please, stay safe and have a good night.